Hello my friend and welcome to Mention Face Razib. Let's now make coding even more fun and actually taking decisions with our code to make it look a lot more real. So let's say that we want to write program which checks whether a person is allowed to start taking driver's lessons or not. And if that's the case, then it will print that to the console. And if not, it will print how many years are left until the person can start taking the driver's lessons. So let's start with an age, and let's create a variable age equals to, for example, 19 age. Okay, so we have this age, and we already know how to check if this age is at least 18, which is the legal required age to start driving lessons, at least here in France or Europe. So let's actually create a variable with that. So I think we actually already did that, I don't remember. Let's call this variable const is old enough. Okay? So again, with a variable name that describes exactly what we want here. So remember, to check if the age is at least 18, we need it to be greater or equal than 18. What I mean, so here equal age greater or equal to 18. And so this will then include 18, of course. So if the age is 18, the result of this operator here, or of this operation, will then be true. Only if the age is 17 or 16 or anything below, it will turn out to be false. Okay? So we have a Boolean value now, and we can use this to take decision using an if statement. And the if statement works like this. All we have to do is to write if, then open parentheses, because ones also, okay? And then inside this parentheses, here goes a condition that is evaluated. And if this condition, that I will put after, of course, turns out to be true, then this block will be executed. Okay? So basically, whatever code that we write into this block, which is donated by these curly braces, will be executed whenever the condition that's here is true. So in this case, let's put the condition, and with condition I basically mean something that is a Boolean value. So let's use is old enough variable, because we already know that this will always be a Boolean. So again, whenever this value here is true, then the code that's in this block here will be executed. And if it is false, well, then it's not going to be executed. So let's add the log console log here in the block, in console log, and I put here, for example, Hisham can start driving license. Okay, and let's just, I will add a fun emoji. Okay, here, so I will show you how to add the emoji in the string. So it depends, of course, if you are using Mac or Windows, of course, or Linux also. So I know in Windows what I am using, it is the Win button. Shortcut is Win button or Windows button plus comma, okay, or comma point. So like this, Windows, I have this pop for emoji, and I think in Mac, I think it is command plus control plus space, okay? Or if it is changed, you can check it in Google. So you added, for example, emoji here, a car, something like this. Good. Okay, so by adding this emoji here, it is not really important, huh? So let's try this now. I will save. Indeed, we get Hisham can start her driving license, and that's because the age is 19, and so it is above 18. So this is true. And so if is old enough is true, then this block of code here will be executed, which in this case is just one line. But I could, of course, it could, of course, be multiple lines, of course. So now, let's put it to something else. For example, we put in the age 15. Okay? And so now, this condition will be false. Okay? And so then this code will not be executed. Okay? So let's try. Save. Indeed, as you can see, I have nothing here. Okay? So that means that the code it works perfectly. So I will just put again the previous value. It is 19. And in practice, we always write this condition directly here. Okay? So I put this condition in the if statement. So this is a lot more common, of course. So copy, paste, and I will command this one. I don't need it now. Good. And depending on that, this code block will then be executed, of course. And actually, let's change again the variable age to 15 or 14. No, same thing. No, that's gonna be false. That's the purpose. Because now we can do something else, which is to actually add an else block. And we do that simply by writing else right here after this first if. Okay? When we finish the block of the first if. Okay? And then we added another block like this. Okay? So what do you think this else block is for? Well, this else block will basically be executed whenever this condition here is false. So right now the age is below 18, and so this is false. And so, as we already know, this block here will not be executed. Okay? Instead, the else block will be executed. So whatever code we have here. Okay? So let's write some code in the else block. So console. No, before this. Before this, I will not put console directly. I will, I think, as I said in the beginning, we will calculate how many years are left for Hisham to start taking her license. Remember? So I need some calculate to calculate this value. So let's do that. So const, and here I will here years left, you call it a variable, and it will be equal to 18, the age to can drive the license, minus the age. Okay, like this, so simple, like this, right? And then we can log in nice string into the console, which contains this variable. And remember, we learned in the last video, the best way of doing that is to use a template literal. So let's do this. Console, don't know what I have now. Console log, and I am using backticks. Okay, and then we say Hisham is too young. Sorry, my friend Hisham, it is not about you. It's too young. Wait, another. Wait, a lot of error. I'm waiting. Another, and here I'm using template literals. Remember to add variable, $sign, curly braces, and now we put the variable. It means years left, and here years. And we added an emoji like this one, for example. Okay, something like this. Good. Okay, so the result of this should be 18 minus 14, and so we should use wait another 4 years. Okay, and indeed we have it. Good. So again, since this condition so this operation basically turned out to be false, then this block of code will be executed. Okay? Just keep in mind that this else block is actually optional, right? So in the beginning, we didn't have this else block, and it still did work. So when there is no else block, JavaScript will then simply move on to the next line after the if statement. In case that the condition if else, okay, condition is false, sorry, okay. Now you know what an if else statement is and how it works. And this is actually one of the most important things in programming. We take decisions with code all the time, which is essentially what we did here. So what we can execute certain parts of our program based on certain conditions. Okay? Now, what we have here is if else statement, which is the official name of this kind of construction here, is called a control structure. So basically, this structure here is called an if-else control structure, and it is called a control structure because the structure actually allows us to have more control over the way that our code is executed. For example, in this if-else statement, the whole code does not just execute in a linear way. So JavaScript does not execute all of this code here linearly. Okay? Instead, we can now control blocks of code that should execute and blocks that should not execute. And so again, that gives us a lot more control over how our code works. And that's why this is called a control structure. Okay? And there are other control structures that we are gonna be into a bit later. Okay? So I hope that you can see how this really takes our code to the next level. Now, just to make sure that you really understood this concept, let's create a very small and a simple example here. And this time, let's actually create a variable conditionally and not just always use console.log. So let's create a birth year variable, birth year equal 1981. Okay? And so now what we want to do is to create a variable called century, which will basically contain the century in which this person was born. So in this case, it was in the 20th century. But for example, if the person was born in let's say 2014, then it will be the 21st century. So to do that, we can of course write an if-else statement. So we can say if birth year is less or equal to 2000, I open the block, I create a variable, let century equal 20. Okay? Else, I put again this variable copy paste. Oops. Copy paste. And here 21. Okay? Good. So we are assuming that the person is not born in the, of course, 19th century. Yeah? You can do it, no problem. You can add one. You can change it to 19. So we are now accounting for something like this, for example. So instead we always have the 20 or the 21st century. Now, to actually make this work, we need to define the century variable outside of the if or else block. Okay? We will go deeply into why that is, but for now, what you need to know is that this is because a variable that we define inside of any block, which is what this here is. So this code block and this call block code block, and any variable that we declare inside of one of this block will not be accessible outside of the block. So let me just show you that. Let me just show you this very quickly. See, so if I try to read here century console.log and we write century now, okay, then I will get an error. You will see this. So let's see, and you see it is encode syntax error, unexpected end of point. Okay, here in line 169. Okay, sorry, I have write worst one like this, and here is our error. Encode reference error, century is not defined. Okay, at this line. And so what we need to do is to define century, this one, outside and simply leave it empty. So let's do that. So let, I need let because it will be changed after this. So let century like this. And then here we can just reassign the value to century. So I remove the let, something like this. Okay, and so now let's see how it works. And I think, as you can see, it is 20 and it is good. So 1981 is below 2000, and so this person was born in the 20th century. Now let's say 2000, for example, 14, something like this. or 2012. Okay, and should now be 21st century, and as you can see, it is the case. Okay, in the console, always see the console. Huh? So I hope that this example to make sense to you. Now don't worry about the fact that we had to declare the century variable outside of the block. What matters here is that you understand the logic of the if-else statement. Okay? And I hope that was clear enough, but anyway, let's quickly recap. We can use or we can take decision using code using the if-else statement, and for that we write if and then we open parentheses, and in there we need a condition, and the condition is essentially any code that returns a true or false value. Okay, and so this is perfect example of that, because this operator here will return true or false. Okay, or this one here. Okay, right? And so we can use this operator to create condition essentially. Then if the condition is true, this block will be executed, or this one. Okay, and if this false, the other one, the else block, will be executed. So JavaScript will then skip this first block and go to the second block, which is this one or this one. Okay, talk about the else block. But the else block is actually optional. Huh? Oops. Okay, so if you don't have the else block, then simply no code will be executed. And this is, in a nutshell, is how the if-else statement works. And remember that this is really powerful. So make sure that you really understand how this works. And when you understand this, then you can make the next challenge. And in this one, you are gonna test your knowledge of the if-else statement that you just learned about. Okay, so the coding challenge number 2 will basically improve the first challenge. We are still gonna be using DBMI example, but we are going to print a nice output to the console, and this output is gonna tell us how has the higher BMI. Okay, so as I said, you're using BMI example from challenge 1, and then the code you already wrote, and improve it. What is different task is to print a nice output to the console saying who has a higher BMI. The message is either Karim's BMI is higher than Said, or Said BMI is higher than Karim's. Second one, use a template literal to include the BMI values in the output. Example, Karim's BMI 28.3 is higher than Said's 23.9. You can use, of course, here if-else statement. Okay, it is the purpose of this challenge. So see you next video, inshallah, to continue the course. And next we continue our course, inshallah, and maybe I think the next video will be about type conversion and coercion. I have talked about this in this video or the previous, I don't remember, but I've said I will talk about in next in this section, so it is the case now. So we talk about type conversion and coercion. Just practice, and take care of us. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel Faisal Azib, and to follow me on Instagram teams.winners and faisal.chico, and in Telegram New Practice and Share, Twitter Teams Winners. Tell you goodbye. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.